Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. Guess what? It's Sunday evening,
All
and it
right.
is 7
It
p.m.,
is.
and it is time for Authors Up. And we are your hosts, and we are glad to be here this evening. I'm Andrea L. Hines, and over to my left there is Miss Ruth Griffin, and then at the bottom of the box it is Victoria Henderson. Ladies, good evening.
Good evening.
First,
Good
what
evening.
you
Happy
got words?
Sunday evening.
You got words of greeting, Miss Ruth?
Oh, hi, hello. So, no, no. Beyond that, I am.
It's all right.
Yep, just hi.
How about you, Victoria?
Hello to my bronze girls. So good to see you. Best part of my day.
Right.
Seeing my friends. Well, today has been a good day, period. But so it's been a lot going on today, but it's a good part of the day. How about that?
Yep. That's good. That's good. That's good. And we always like to start our program and start our week. First of all, we welcome you to the broadcast and to all of our listening audience and those people who are viewing, those who are listening, and those who got us by podcast and YouTube and all those other spaces. We thank you and we welcome you. We're glad that you are with us tonight. This is a special night. Whenever we don't have a guest and it's just the hosts in the house, you know that we've got something good for you and something that we want to share with you, and that is where we are today. And we want to start with our week in review, and I think I'm going to go first. I'm trying to see if this cough is going to let me play. So we're gonna pray that it does. Uh, Stay
Yeah.
quiet,
Okay.
so I can tell you about my
Okay. We're
weekend
praying.
review. The week. You know, sometimes you have a week where it just takes one thing that goes wrong. You can have a really good week all week long, and then that one thing will happen, and that one thing can just take away all the good that happened during that week. And it works in the opposite as well. You can have a really bad week, and then you can have that one thing that just
Right.
erases
Turns it
just
around.
everything else. And I had a, I'm not going to say a hard week. I had a challenging week. There was a lot going on that needed to be done and needed to be taken care of, and all of that. But I do have a God who is well able, so I put it in His hands and
Amen.
muddled my
Amen.
way through the rest. But yesterday, and Victoria, I don't know whether this is part of your weekend review or not, but there was an event, and it's called All the King's Daughters, and they have it. This is the third year that they've done it, and it's always nice. And sometimes it's got a different theme and all of that good stuff. And I'm not going to talk too long here, but they asked us to wear pearls. Everybody had on their pearls. It was a beautifully decorated event, and it was she gave some the host was Lynn, my daughter, and she gave some um, appreciation prizes and gifts
Yeah.
to the women who were there. And they all had to do with the letters in the word pearl. But the L was life, and she presented me with a gift. And I promised that I would show this one of the things that was given, which was not in connection with Pearl, but it was in connection with Mother's Day. And I'm going to see if I can pull it up, and then I'm going to tell you about it. Okay. I don't know whether you can see that well or not, but this is a box, and it is a box that looks like a vending machine.
Okay.
It was
When you
beautiful.
open it up, it has got all kinds of stuff on the inside. It had a mug. I think you can see the mug there. It had a gift card in it. But let me tell you about this mug. The mug said Nanny, which is what everybody calls me. But the letters in Nanny were all parts of pictures of my family. It was my
Beautiful.
grandson and my great grandson and my daughter and my granddaughter. It even had pictures of the dogs. letters. It was
Beautiful.
absolutely the most unique thing that I've ever seen anybody do. I've never seen anything like it. It was just exquisite. And I felt so much love
Mm.
wrapped up in that box that the rest of the week didn't matter. The rest of the things
Amen.
I thought there were shortcomings, or I didn't make the cut, or I don't have enough,
Right.
whatever. All of that flipped in those few minutes. And I thank Lynn for it. I thank the people who were there. And I'm going to probably on my program on Thursday really kind of take that box apart and show everybody the kinds of things that were in it. But it was just amazing and made me feel
And
so
then did y'all see that part at the bottom that said push? If she pushed it
yes.
in, it actually swung open and closed like a little door. Oh,
Just like a vending machine. I thought this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. So, what I want to say with that, whether you are an author, whether you're a writer, whether you're a reader, whether whatever you are, and whatever it is that you do, there's an idea up here. Let your creativity just flow freely and see what God will do. Because I'm telling you, I looked at her and I said, where'd you even get the thought, to do something like this? And she explained how it all came about. But it was just
beautiful.
beautiful, and the day was beautiful, and it was just look for the good. That's where I want every week that I have to be, when I start and when I finish, to be looking for the good. So I'm looking for the good in the guests we've got on tonight. We say good evening to Linda Cooks and Night Kayetta, who was in our area this weekend. And Angie O got a special gift on yesterday as well. So thank you all for being here, invite and share. And that was my week in review. What was going on with you, Ruth?
Well, I got the opportunity to attend a retirement party for a friend. And it's really weird to me because I'm going to be 50 in about 3, 4 months, and I'm getting up there in that age. And it's just like, okay, cool. So this is where I'm at now. But it was beautiful to watch, to spend the day with her and just to watch her be honored for the work
Oh,
that she's done. She's in child advocacy. And just, by friends, family, work colleagues from the last 25 years. She had people come up, and one lady was like, by virtue of her position that she was in and the virtue of the position my friend was in, she's like, we shouldn't have gotten along, but just because she is who she is, I'm here today because she made a difference. And I was like, that's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So, just to watch her do what she did for 25 years. And I got to have lunch with her prior, and I was like, well, how are you? She's like, yeah, I'm a little nervous because she didn't know what to say. But when it came time to her speaking, it was just like, oh yeah, no, she always knew what she was gonna say. Even if she didn't
oh,
know what she was gonna say, she knew what she was gonna say, and it just flowed out of her, and it was just beautiful to watch. And I've not put in 25 years anywhere, but I know I'm gonna be celebrating when my retirement age comes, whatever that age is. I look forward, not necessarily to hearing the accolades, because you guys do a great job giving me accolades for my writing. Um, it was just a beautiful moment to share,
Yeah.
and I really, I won't say that it was the highlight of my week, but it was one of the highest points of the week. And like you were saying, Andrea, that just something that happens
Yeah.
and it can turn your week around. And it was just I had been to other retirement parties, but this was the first one that I went to that I was personally connected to
yeah,
the person being honored, and it was just beautiful to
right.
watch that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
Because
that
you
was
know that they were saying things that were true about her.
mm, I mean, even her dad, who
Mhm.
had flown in the day before, he got up and he was he was funny because he had this hat on. He's like, "You like this hat?" He's like, "I look good in it." She gave it to me. I'm like, "Okay, cool."
Oh,
So, and it was just, you could see where she got her sense of humor. I'm like, okay, cool. That it was beautiful to watch.
That's good. That's
It
good.
is. It was. So, Victoria, how's your week?
my week, was it, a little rough with work, but the weekend was just fantabulous, like Angie O says. The weekend was good. I attended that same event, and it was really good because we surprised the host, Lynn, with the presence of my cousin Nikayetta, who's watching. And she's actually on the bus going back to New York, but she's tuned in tonight. And I just want to tell her I love her,
Right.
and we
Yeah.
had a great weekend. She came in, the bus came in 6 o'clock in the morning Saturdays, but I was right down there picking her up the bus, and we got a little rest, and then we went to the event. And when she walked in, see, Lynn thought she was going to be pulling her in on the phone, so we surprised her by having her Nikita being there in person. And when she walked in, Lynn so it was really, really,
Good moment.
it
Good
was
moment.
it was a good, it really was. It was a good moment. And we had a nice time. And like Andrew said, it was beautifully decorated. And it was just a feel-good moment. It was a moment of nothing but joy as we watched other women being celebrated. And sometimes we're not celebrated enough. And the people who were celebrated was surprised that they were the ones being celebrated. And that was good too, because again, we don't get accolades. And I know everybody in that room, we don't do the things that we do to get praise, but for somebody to take the time to celebrate them it was beautiful. So, and I had a good time with my cousin all weekend. We went to church together and we just had a good time. It was a really good weekend, really was. So it just made whatever happened the first part of the weekend, I don't even think about that anymore. But got my cousin back on the bus, got home so I could be here on the show with you guys. And it's just all good. I'm ready to start a new week. And just if I could help somebody, then my living will not be in vain. And that was it.
Man. And I wanted to say too, because this may give us some thoughts going forward. The words that she chose, and Victoria, you may have to help me out, but the words were passion, evolve, accomplish. I'm not sure.
Resilience
Resilient, and
and
life.
live
So
life.
it
Yeah.
was to, and she had carefully selected the ladies and the things that, like Victoria said, the things about them that made her choose that made me think of the people in my life that I think are passionate, that I think have evolved, that I think are resilient. And, just, it was just good. It's just good. It was a different thought process in a different place. And sometimes we need that. Right, Ruth?
That's right.
And we're going to turn it over. Ruth is going to guide us down the writing road tonight. And we are always happy when she does that, because she always has some great nuggets for us, food for thought for us, things that we should do, should not do, and have joy in the process and in the journey. So what you got for us tonight, Ruth?
All right. Well, tonight we are going to be talking about reading as a writing tool. And I pulled the subject from a Stephen King quote. And actually, he has two quotes. He wrote a book, among the many others that he's written. He wrote called On Writing. And it said, if you want to be a writer, you must do two things above all else: read a lot and write a lot. That is a great quote in itself. This next one is a little more of a tough love one. If you do not have the time to read, you do not have the time or the tools to write. And I included the second one because I believe that reading gives us the tools we need to write. And I want to, Andrea, not to put you on the spot, but
That's okay.
just part of our conversation prior to the show, I want to preface this by saying, we, as writers, we're all in different places. We all write from different positions. We write in different genres. We write differently. So what may apply to one person may not necessarily apply to everyone. So all the tools, even whenever we give tips, pick and choose what you need. You know, some of these I got from teacher websites for their students. So, this is fundamental, but at the same time, it's also if you're writing an epic saga like Shogun, which we'll talk about in a minute, over 1,000 pages back in, I think it's like 50 years old now, the book is, that definitely necessitated reading when it came to writing it. But, if you're writing a saga in that level, then yeah, you're going to need to do it. But if you are churning out poetry, if that is your thing, you know, you might just read for pleasure. So, let's look at the purpose of reading, and how it is a resource for writing. So, I do have 8 points, and we're going to go through them fairly quickly. But you guys jump in, any points, any
Okay.
questions, anything like that.
Okay.
So, reading in itself is a vital tool for personal growth and development. So, the writer that I was then 20 plus years ago when I began writing seriously as a writer is not the person that, the author that I am now, because books that I've read have been able to inform my writing. So it has been a journey, and the two go hand in hand. So because I have read as I've written, it has enabled me to grow. So, how are some of the ways that we can grow? Um, it allows us to, number one, understand the world around us. It provides us with with insight into different perspectives. So, example is Shogun. Most recently, though, was a miniseries on FX, or you can catch it on Hulu. Highly recommended.
Mhm.
It was very well done. Manage your expectation because the book was much better. It always is. Um, but for me, I always look at the background of the author. The author spent time World War II in a prisoner of war camp in Japan, which is where his love of the culture was born outside of obviously his experience in a prisoner of war camp. When it came time to writing his book, and he had several sagas, epic novels, set in Japan and in China as well. But when it came time to write, he had to be able to read, um, because, for as slanted as Shogun was towards a white man's point of view,
Mhm.
it was still fairly historically accurate.
Right.
So he had to be able to research that and put himself in it. And he had enough respect for the culture to churn out a book that was just, I mean, it highly recommended. I know we're not here talking about this, but if you get the opportunity, read the book, listen to the audiobook. It's like 30, 40 plus hours long, but it is, it gives you an example of what reading does, because it helped him understand his world. It helped him understand this particular world, and it informed what he was able to write and create with this book. And it was interesting because I read an article that argued that he wrote the book and a certain character in the book to be able to bring um, reconciliation between the Japanese and Americans. So,
Right.
Mm.
and this book in itself is not the catalyst, but it was one of the books, or one of the catalysts that brought on the interest in Japanese culture back in the 70s and 80s. So
Oh.
Wow.
it's very interesting. So, that in itself, his, love of the culture, his reading, his writing, and then for it to begin changing culture itself. So you can see it as a big domino effect. So
Hmm.
I wanted to include that because I thought it was interesting. Um, all right. So reading inspires writers, introducing them to great ideas and improving their ability to think critically and analytically. Again, this is one of the pieces of advice from the teachers that, when they're introducing these subjects to their students. So, reading allows you to see, again, these different types of thinking and then it in changes how you start thinking or how you may see other things to start changing about it, because again all of this is going to inform how you write. Okay.
Mhm.
It connects you with your audience. Oftentimes we write what we read.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to read a lot of romances.
Mm-hmm.
You end up writing what you read. And, we've all done that. We pick up a book and we go, that wasn't that great. You pick up another book and go, oh, I really like that. And then you start looking at it. You start looking for more of that particular author, more of that particular vein, which is
Yeah.
why on Amazon and all the other ones, you see stuff like in the marketing that says, if you liked such and such author, then you'll enjoy this, because they understand that if you are reading this particular person, you're gonna that's what you're gonna go after. And
Right.
as a writer, you tend to gravitate towards what you love, and this allows you to connect with who your audience is, because now you want to provide that same thing. You don't
Mm.
want to provide mediocrity. You have your certain style, but you want to be able to say, okay, I know that that worked. The audience loved it. So let me see what I can provide. And again, I want to say that, um, we're not talking about plagiarism. We're not talking about copying,
Mm-hmm.
but we
Right,
may
right.
emulate a style until we find our own.
Right.
And that's often what we do when we write what we read. So I think honestly, it is akin to flattery. And it just, you're finding your own voice, you know, and then that is another thing. Reading helps you develop your own voice. And this is the interesting part. You guys have read my stuff, so you know that some of the books include adult content in it. And I
Right.
did not have the slightest idea how to write that stuff. So, you want to balance between love and erotica. And it's just like, oh, I'm not trying to
Right.
do that. So I started reading books like that. And I started going, oh, I don't like that. I'm not going to include that. And even the piece that I'm working on now, it has some adult content, but it's just like, how, to me, it's a beautiful moment. How can I write that without getting into the weeds
Mhm.
of certain things? I'm not trying to
Mm-hmm.
titilize the audience. I'm just trying to share a beautiful moment,
Mhm.
and
Right.
you learn that by reading what's out there. See
Mhm.
how other
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm.
read, and then you pull from book A, from book B, from book C, and you create your own style.
Mhm.
So
Right.
that is something else that reading can help you do. It helps you build your vocabulary and your writing style.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Biggest thing, I again, I know I'm a word nerd, so I don't know how many other people do that, but if I find a word I don't know, I'll go look it up.
Mm-hmm.
And Kindles and Nooks, all those e-readers are great for it. You just hit the screen and wait for the dictionary to pop up, and there you go. Which is terrible when you go back to reading paperbacks because you're sitting there pushing the paper and you're like, I've done that a few too many times. But you see what other people, you see the words that other people write, and then you learn how to do it, and now it's in your brain, and you
Right.
may use
Right.
it, you may not, depending on what your style is. So again, reading is a tool for your writing.
Mm-hmm.
um I wanted to say that it provides a model for writing. It is foundational because it serves as an example of what good writing should resemble. Again, we go back. We all have what is the quote? The customer's always right in tastes and
Mm-hmm.
style. In when it comes to style, we know what we like, but we also know what is good writing. And again, going back to Shogun, James Clavell was a very talented writer. They did a great job with the miniseries, but if you want to read something where he just had a mastery of words, painting pictures, of a culture that was what 400 years ago.
Wow.
That's it helps you. That is the model. Again, the Korean author I was reading, the last volume just came out today, and I just started skimming through it, and it was just like, this book was epic.
Mm.
That is the model for what I want to write. Not necessarily that I want to copy her, but I want to be able to say, I want to write on that level. And
Mhm,
it comes from
mhm.
understanding. Look at the words that she writes, look at the pictures that she paints. How does your imagination fit into all this? So writing creates it creates a model of what reading creates a model of what the writing should be. And then lastly, reading helps the author identify trends. So we're going to
Yeah,
switch
yeah.
gears a little bit and talk about the business side of
Mhm.
writing. Learning to read and to engage in the works of others provides a conceptual understanding of the genres of writings and their design. So by reading, you're understanding what each one is. You're understanding what is the difference between, contemporary fiction and literary fiction? What is the difference?
Mhm.
Understanding what all of that means. What are your readers reading? Again, it goes back to, understanding and connecting your audience. What are books versus serials versus shorter books? All of that. It helps you understand trends so that, you can inform your writing, so that you can say, this is what I want to do, and there's some authors who are just like, I'm going to write what I'm going to write. There are some authors who say, well, and oftentimes we see it in films. You may see like several pirate movies come out in a year, in a couple years
Mhm.
times. You may see several Viking movies comes out. Those are trends. Those, people with the finance are the ones buying these and saying this is what's going to come out. And it's the same
Right.
thing with books. And if you want to fit your writing into that, reading allows you to understand that. Just go to Amazon, see what their bestsellers are, and pick the ones you want
Mhm.
to. If you read romances and your thing are vampires or orcs, there are books out there because they're currently trending.
Somebody like
And if
that.
you
Yeah.
have an idea of somebody falling in love with a monster, then, have at
Should
it.
I change my characters?
I would not. That's gonna take a whole lot more reading. But it's just, it helps, if that is what your style. And I think that goes back to the first statement that I made, is that, all of this, all of these tips, all of this information is not necessarily, okay, I have to write everything down and it's going to apply everything to me. Because what I realized is what I was going through this is that, oh, I did this back when I was in my late 20s. Oh, this part I did when I was 35. Oh, this part I'm getting ready to do. Right now,
Mm,
honestly, I read for the love of reading. Um,
okay.
Even, I started reading War and Peace because, it was an online book club, and I decided on Friday that, you know what, I'm gonna just keep reading it. And I actually downloaded the mini series. And to me, it is now become about pleasure. I read because I
Okay.
want to read. But,
Right.
there might be somebody out there who may need to understand the trends, who may need to research, who may need to, do their vocabulary, get update their vocabulary. So it's just, it just understand where you are as a writer and then
Mhm.
what reading can do for you. So again, you might be in your 40s, you've already read, to update your vocabulary. It is what it is. You found your writing style. Now you just may need to do it for research. You may need to do it for trends. You've got several books and you want to understand how the market is. Read for that reason. Read, see what's
Mhm.
out there. So just understand where you are, and then reading will fit into that. Um, Whether it's for business or for pleasure.
Mhm.
So those are my tips.
All
Good
right.
tips.
All right. Good. Very good. I
Good
wanted to
tips.
ask Elder, with your poetry, do you read poetry?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Hmm.
I'm, being honest. No, I don't read it a lot.
Mhm.
But I tell you this, that is one thing that Ruth reminded me of is that we have to understand our own uniqueness within what,
Mhm.
and I'm not necessarily, I'm in a genre, but I'm not necessarily in a category that always fits
Mhm.
Right.
the teaching tools just because of what I write. But as I was sitting here, and you were talking about reading for pleasure, I read more for pleasure early in my earlier years uh,
Mhm.
than
Mhm.
I do now. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking back of what was I reading then? What was I reading then? What were the characters about then? And I was a mystery fan then.
Mhm.
Interesting because of the uh, the NaNoWriMo More challenge. The book that I or the story that I'm attempting to finish has a lot of those mystery elements and
Mhm.
mystery.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, when I was reading that, being a writer was nowhere on my radar.
No.
I wasn't reading it for that.
Right.
But I say that to say that whatever we are reading uh, influences us, even when we don't realize that we're being influenced by it.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I
I
agree.
thought my favorite was Sidney Sheldon. Whatever
Oh
Sidney
my goodness.
I was the first thing at the bookstore, and I would sit and I would just read because that was it. But then I think now the characters that I was drawn to were those who were, overcoming adversity somehow.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
Mistreated or misjudged or all of that, and the writing that I do now and read now is more on a self-help, I'm going to call it,
Yeah.
line,
Yeah.
because it's about understanding who you are. It's about value. It's about not being in a space of allowing people to misjudge you or mistreat you or doing all of that, standing on your own and having that kind of strength. So there was an influence in those books and with
Mhm.
those characters that I didn't even know or realize was there, because honestly, when this first came across, I sat down and said, "Well, I ain't reading, I ain't writing, this is not working out for me." you know? But in talking with Ruth and really understanding and gaining a better understanding of the relationship, I'll say,
Yes.
with reading and writing, I thought, no, I'm just, it's not that I'm lacking in anything. I'm just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
my whole process is different. My subject matter may be different, but even as I write, because I am 3 times a week. If I don't write any other time, I'm going to write something for the 8-a-day program 3 times a week.
Mhm.
Sometimes as I'm writing, I say to myself, didn't didn't we do this last week? Or didn't I say this last week? Or why are we saying that again? And for me, his process with me has to do with what he wants other people to gain.
Mhm.
He sees a struggle that I don't see.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, he sees a story that I don't see. So it is necessary, if I'm leaning into him and leaning into him saying, "What do you want me to share?" Then I share what he gives me. The interesting thing is that whenever I struggle with that, someone will call or someone will send me a note or send me a text that says, "Man,
That
I
was good to
really
me.
needed that this morning. That was my word this morning." So my process in going through that is very different. Doesn't make it wrong, doesn't make it bad. It's just different. And
Yeah.
there's the value in that because that's what he has created for the purpose where he wants to get the glory. So, I feel better about it than I did when I first read Ruth's note.
Well, I don't read like I used to either. I mean, when I was younger, I was love me some Danielle Steele, and then I went through my self-help era where I have all Ian Levanzon's books, every last one, trust me, still on my shelf. But now I'm actually reading right now 2 spiritual books. I'm reading The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren, and I'm reading a book called Excuseless by Debnair Snell. And that book is phenomenal because he addresses all the excuses that we give ourselves to stop or not do something or not finish something. And I love that. And it's really helping me right now to get some priorities in order with no excuses. Like, I'm not making an excuse. It's just what it is. I identify what it is, see what I can do to change it, and move on. So I love that book. I'm actually planning to get you guys a copy and reach out and see if he could be on the show, because that book is phenomenal.
Awesome.
And, I'm glad you said that, because I think it goes back to even understanding who we are versus who we were.
Yeah.
I had read these books when, again, I read a lot of romance, and I had read these books. They were paranormal romance type thing. I
Right.
read them, loved them when I was in my 30s. And I got copies of them again because they were library books. And I thought, oh, they were great. And I started reading them, and I was like,
What
this
in that?
no. And they were same books, but it was just, I was in a different
Right.
place.
Right. Like I don't want to read Danielle Steele right now either. I don't.
No. So, and it's just, I think we need to realize, we need to understand that, we're the only constant in life is change. And, how we approached reading back then is different to how we approach reading now. And even I look at my husband, because, I was thinking, he's written a second book. It's in my hands. I have to edit it.
Oh.
But the thing is, he couldn't have written it without reading. He's not a reader. But when he delved into the Bible and he started reading that part, and he started reading what certain other people were writing that connected with it, this was born out of him. So I think that is a great example of it. And it's not necessarily that we have to be readers, but I think it reflects also what Stephen King was saying. These two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Basically. And again, it's not going to be that I have to read all the time. I have to read. Several weeks ago, I was like, yeah, I got 6 books. I cannot do that. I can't focus on that. And that shouldn't be the norm for anybody. I am down to book club book, a book I pick up whenever I don't want to read whatever else, and then War and Peace. And even then, if I could just focus on War and Peace, I would be fine. But this is not a book that I would have.
I would say, well, then we got the books for this show too.
Right. So, and it's just, you understand where you are, what you want to accomplish, and then you allow those two to work together. Now, again, Andrea, you write poetry, but that doesn't mean necessarily you want to read poetry. Right. And that's okay.
Right.
You read what you need to read when you need to read it. And it's just, for me, the crux of this show is being able to say that reading is a tool that will go with your writing, depending on where you are and what you need. Right. So it will help build you. It will help make you a better author, and it will help inform what you are writing and make it so many times better when you allow them to work together.
I like that phrase, allow them to work together. You don't have to force it. No. You don't have to conjure it up. You just allow them to work together.
Yeah.
Well, Ruth, thank you so much. You always have good tips and tools. Yes. And this is our peanut butter and jelly episode. Some things go together. And reading and writing are two of those things that just go together. You may not see it that way in the beginning. You may not understand how much what you have read has influenced what you write. But it does, and it postures you in a particular place that you may not even realize in the beginning. So, Ruth, I thank you for that, and
You're
thank you
welcome.
for always keeping me at a calm place, allowing me to go off in an unhealthy tangent. So
That's right.
I thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Victoria, I always like your comments and the things that you share with us on Authors Up, and I thank you for that as
Thank
well.
you.
So we have come to our time, and I thank everybody for watching, for viewing, for listening. If there are any topics or any books in particular, or any writings of any kind that you think would be good for us to explore during our Authors Up program, be sure to let us know. You can contact us, and Ruth's going to tell you how to find us and where we are.
Absolutely. So again, like Andrew was saying, if you have any questions at all, if you have you want to find out how to be on the show, if you want to recommend somebody, if you want to just tell us about your day, tell us about what you're reading, just email us at authorsup@gmail.com. We are on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search for Authors Up or Authors Up Show. We'll be there. So if you want to catch a replay of this show, you can come back to Facebook on ALH or Authors Up. We will be here on Saturday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time zone. Otherwise, we will be uploading the replays of the show on podcast or on YouTube. You can find those midweek on our network, on our platforms. That's it.
Very good. You do that so well. I'm
Thank
always
you.
so impressed. Thank you so much, Ruth, for taking care of that for us.
Of course.
And that is it for us for tonight, everybody. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to share the information. And don't forget to come back. We love it when you are here and when you have questions and information that you would like to share with us as well. So have an absolutely amazing week. Go into your week thinking that, you know what, by the end of the week, what do I want to review? What's my weekend review going to look like?
Okay.
You can tap into some of our faithful folks sometimes and say, what was your weekend review? Give us a highlight reel really quickly. So you never know. And that is the truth. You never know what is going to happen when you tune into Authors Up. So have a great week, everybody. Hopefully we will see you right back here next Sunday. Oh, well, Sunday we won't be live, but we'll be here some way, shape, or form.
Okay, that's right. Next week is Mother's Day. Yes.
That's right.
Right. So be sure you come back. That's the main point. Just be sure you come back and see what we have to offer. And that is it for tonight. Come on, 7 p.m. Sunday evening. Make it your favorite place to be, because it certainly has become ours. So good night, everybody. And we will see you soon. Keep reading. Keep writing.
Nice ones, girls.
That's it.